Hello viewers, welcome back to our series of lectures on the topic electromagnetic spectrum, the absorption spectra. In today's session, we will continue our discussion on IR spectroscopy, and in today's session we will take up two things. Primarily, we will focus attention on to the factors which affect IR spectrum, and then thereafter we will talk about the concept of group frequencies and fingerprint region. The session is planned as follows, that is, to begin with, we will briefly review the contents of the previous sessions. Thereafter, we will take up the factors which affect IR spectrum. Herein, we will discuss a number of factors which are affecting IR spectrum. Thereafter, we will take up the concept of characteristic group frequencies, and then we will come down to the fingerprint region. That is a part of the IR spectrum, and we will talk about what is the region, what is the origin of this region lines, and then what is the significance of it. Having done that, we will sum up what we do in today's session. Okay. Now, let us quickly recall what we have done so far. What we have done so far is, we have started by defining what is IR spectroscopy and outlined its importance and things like that. Thereafter, we explained in detail the origin of IR spectrum and discussed the measurement of IR spectrum. We talked about the spectrometer used and things like that. And of course, we did talk about the kind of sampling devices and used for different kind of samples there. Then we explained the characteristics of IR spectra, and having done all that, now let us move further and see what are the factors that affect IR spectrum. And in this context, we will talk about a number of factors, but prior to that, let us recall one brief thing over here, that is, when we talk about the vibration IR spectroscopy, or basically we know that IR spectrum is a consequence of vibrational motion of the molecules, and the vibration frequency of any bond in a molecule depends on two things, the force constant and the reduced mass. And this is a very important relationship here, that is, the oscillation frequency is equal to 1 by 2 pi square root of k by mu. K happens to be the force constant, it is the strength of the bond, and mu happens to be the reduced mass, which is given by the following expression, mu is equal to m1 into m2 divided by m1 plus m2, where m1 and m2 are the masses of the two atoms which are joined together. And typically, since in IR spectrum we express the frequencies in terms of centimeter inverse, and this expression is more relevant over there, so wherein we just talk about omega oscillation to be equal to 1 by 2 pi c. C happens to be the velocity of light, and of course, k by mu, it is in centimeter inverse units. So, we always give it with a bar on that. And the kind of factors we are going to now take up, all those factors, the effects of those factors which are affecting IR spectra can be rationalized in terms of this expression. That is why we had to recall this expression. This is a very important expression for us. Okay. Now, we can take up the factors which affect IR spectrum, and we are going to talk about the following factors, that is the bond strength, size of the bonded atoms, hybridization, conjugation or resonance, inductive effect, and hydrogen bonding. All these factors we will discuss in detail and see that how do they affect IR spectrum. Let us begin by talking about the bond strength. It is very straightforward. Now, we know that stronger the bond, greater is the force constant. We just mentioned that a little earlier. That means, using this formula now, if I am trying to compare two bonds there, suppose the bond happens to be stronger than the other one, the one which is stronger has a higher value of k, and suppose the two happen to have the same value of mu, of course, the one with the stronger bond will have a higher vibration frequency. Let us take some examples here. Look at the following three systems here. This is C triple bond C, C double bond C, C single bond C. So, in all the three cases here, what we have is, since the two atoms which are linked together happen to be identical, so the reduced mass happens to be same in all the three bonds over here. And the only difference is between the three is in terms of the force constant. This has some certain strength, this is stronger bond than this is still stronger. So, what you find is, as the k value increases, you find the vibration frequency is increasing. It is 1200 here, 1650 and 2150 centimeter inverse. So, that is a direct correlation between the strength of the bond and the vibration frequency. Similarly, we can take the case of C N single bond, C N double bond and C N triple bond. Here again we find a similar trend over there. So, the basic thing is, if the bond is strong, the vibration frequency will be greater, if provided that the reduced mass happens to be the same. Okay. Let us move further, the size of bonded atoms. Now, look at this. Suppose I am talking about the bond of between two atoms. If I keep one atom constant and change the size of second atom, when I change the size of second atom, essentially the mass is increasing, and what will happen is the reduced mass also will change in the same direction, and as a consequence, since reduced mass is going to increase by increasing the size of the atom, one of the atoms over there, and if we assume that K is constant, we find that the vibration frequency will become lesser and lesser. Let us take an example here. Let us take example of CH, CC, CO and CCl bonds here. CH bond has a vibration frequency of about 3000 centimeter inverse. If I replace this hydrogen by carbon, okay, so and we assume that the bond strength happens to be same, that is the K value has to have the same value, then this CC and CO and CL, so this carbon is heavier than hydrogen, oxygen is heavier than carbon, chlorine is heavier than oxygen. So, we find that as the atom is becoming larger and larger, the reduced mass is increasing. Thereby, we find that the vibration frequency goes on decreasing. There is a again inverse relationship between the two. Higher the value of reduced mass, lower the vibration frequency. Okay. The third factor is hybridization. The vibration frequency of a CH bond depends on the hybridization of the carbon atom to which this is attached. Now, let us take this example here. Now, suppose I have a carbon atom and then we have a hydrogen atom attached to that, we are talking about CH bond. In case of CH bond, the vibration frequency will depend on what is the nature of this carbon, the hybridization on this carbon atom. Let us take the three cases here. Let us take the example of a alkane, alkene and alkyne. In case of alkane, we know that this carbon atom here, to which I am looking at this bond here, CH bond here. In this case, this is a CH bond under consideration. Here, this CH bond is under consideration. If I look at these three molecules, we find that this carbon atom is sp3 hybridized, this is sp2 hybridized, and this is sp hybridized. That is, we have sp3, sp2 and sp hybridization respectively in these three cases over there. Now, in order to understand the difference between these three hybrid orbitals, let us look at the shapes of these three orbitals and then see what is the percentage S character in them. Look at the shapes over here. So, this is the sp orbital, this is sp2 hybrid orbital, this is sp3 hybrid orbital. So, what you find is in case of sp hybrid orbital, this has got about 50% of S character, this has got 33% S character, this has got 25% S character. That means, it is 75% P. That means, this sp3 is more P-like, this is more S-like. Now, in case of say alkyne, where we got an sp hybridized carbon atom, so what will happen is the bond which is formed, that is sp orbital with highest S character. So, in this case, this orbital will be closer to the nucleus. As a consequence, this bond will be shorter. That means, a CH bond wherein carbon atom has got sp hybridization will have the shortest bond. Hence, it will be stronger. A shorter bond will be stronger bond between the two. As a consequence, since look at the numbers here, you find that this CH here, which is sp3 hybrid orbital of carbon atom, this is 109 picometers, this is 108 picometers, this is 106 picometers. So, since this is shortest and reduced mass happens to be same in the three cases, so this will be the strongest bond. Since it is strongest, it will have a higher value of the force constant and hence it will have a higher vibration frequency. Let us look at the data here. So, this is alkane, is about 2800 to 3000 centimeter inverse. In case of alkene, it is about 3000 to 3100, and in case of alkyne, it is about 3300 centimeter inverse. So, we find that alkynes will have a higher vibration frequency because of the bond being shorter and thence being stronger bond over there. Let us look at the spectra of these molecules here. Now, this is alkane. In case of alkanes, what you find is typically the characteristic this CH vibrations there, where C happens to be sp3 hybridized, we find that they are somewhere around little below 3000 centimeter inverse. But if we come to alkenes, we find that in case of alkenes, we will have CH bonds which are sp3 carbon atom or the ones which contain sp2 hybridized carbon atom here. So, we find that this CH bond having carbon atom as sp2 hybridized has a vibration frequency higher than 3000 centimeter inverse, whereas this happens to be less than this. So, we find that because of this, there is a shift in the vibration frequency. If we move to alkynes, we find that this CH having carbon atom as sp hybridized, we find that this has gone further to a higher value of vibration frequency. Okay. Now, let us move on to another effect here, that is conjugation oblique resonance here. Now, basically what happens is, because of conjugation of a double bond, we find that the vibration frequency of the double bond gets altered here. Now, let us move on to the next effect, that is conjugation oblique resonance. Now, what basically happens is, we find that suppose you got a double bond and it undergoes conjugation. As a consequence, what happens is that the vibration frequency of this double bond decreases. Now, let us take some data first. Say an isolated carbon-carbon double bond has the following range of frequencies, about 1640 to 1680 centimeter inverse, and if you got a conjugated system, we find that the value decreases to about 1620 to 1640 centimeter inverse, and if you have got an aromatic system, we find it is of the order of 1600 centimeter inverse. So, they are the typical values over here. Now, what happens here? What happens basically is, due to conjugation, the bond order decreases. The bond order decreases means that the bond becomes weaker now. That is, the bond strength will decrease. Since the bond strength is decreasing, as per our formula, we find that the K value is decreasing. Since the K value is decreasing, we find that the vibration frequency decreases there. Now, let us look at some examples here. Say a carbonyl group. Now, we got an isolated carbonyl group over here having a vibration frequency of about 1720 centimeter inverse. But suppose this happens to be conjugated with the double bond, we find that the vibration frequency becomes about 1680 centimeter inverse. And this change, this decrease can be rationalized in terms of resonance. Let us look at the structures here. Now, these are the two resonating structures for our isolated carbonyl group. We find that this structure has got charge separation, and this structure is without any charge separation over there, and this is a predominant structure. This also contributes, but to a very small extent, and there are only two possible resonating structures over here. But if we come to a conjugated system here, we find that firstly there are three possible structures here. That means more number of structures are there, and secondly we find that even this structure, because this is without any charge separation, this has some charge separation, this has got more another set of charge separation at different carbon atoms, different atoms over there, and this also contributes significantly to the overall nature of the molecule. So, we find that because of this, here only two structures are there, here there are three structures, this is more stabilized here, and as a consequence this conjugated atom has got more structures, and this will have a bond order of less than 2, because these structures with charge separation here having a carbon-carbon single bond over here, similarly here also. So, since they also become contributed to the overall structure, we find that the overall bond order becomes less than 2. Since it becomes less than 2, that means the resonance frequency will decrease, because when the bond order becomes less, it means the force constant becoming less. K is becoming less, the vibration frequency will decrease. Now, let us move on to inductive effect. Now, inductive effect, basically there are two kinds of inductive effects, we all know that. Now, if you have situation, that is you have a carbonyl group, a given vibrating group is there, and we introduce some kind of alkyl groups around that. So, that alkyl groups will induce what is called as a, they will bring in the positive A effect. As a consequence, the bond will become longer or weaker, and as a consequence of this, the force constant will decrease, thereby the vibration frequency will decrease. Let us take some examples here. I am talking about carbonyl stretching frequency here. So, this is formaldehyde, this is acetaldehyde, this is acetone here. So, what you find is the carbonyl frequency in this case happens to be about 1750 centimeter inverse. But if I replace this hydrogen by a methyl group here, if I come to acetaldehyde, you find that the vibration frequency has become lesser to 1745 centimeter inverse. But if I bring in this hydrogen also replaced by a methyl group, I find that the plus I effect becomes more significant here, and as a consequence the vibration frequency becomes 1715 centimeter inverse. So, that is one kind of inductive effect. Second possibility is, that is we can introduce some kind of electron withdrawing groups, because and in that case what we will have is we will have a minus I effect coming into picture, and as a consequence of this minus I effect the bond will become stronger. Let us look at some example. Since bond becomes stronger, the vibration frequency will increase, we know from the formula by now. Now, let us look at this example here. Again I am looking at the carbonyl stretching frequencies and there are different molecules over here. So, in this case, this is my acetone molecule having 17-15 centimeter inverse, but suppose I replace this one of the hydrogens by chlorine atom here, an electron withdrawing group, I find that vibration frequency increases. I change yet another one, it becomes still higher. If I bring in almost 2 here and 2 here, 4 chlorine atoms here, we find that vibration frequency increases further. So, this increase in frequency here is a consequence of minus I effect, which is actually causing the increase in the strength of the bond, and as a consequence the vibration frequency is increasing. Now, let us get on to yet another effect which causes changes in the IR spectrum, that happens to be hydrogen bonding, a very significant effect here. We know that hydrogen bonding is observed in systems containing a proton donor, that is in something like XH, and a proton acceptor called as Y. That is how do we represent it. Now, this is a part of the molecule where there is some hydrogen atom attached to a X, some group X over there, and this Y happens to be part of some other molecule or maybe of the same molecule here. And what happens is we have got this kind of situation here. So, this is a consequence of hydrogen bonding. So, what you find from here is typically common donors, that is X could be a carbonyl group, this could be an acid here or an OH, NH2 or CONH2, and Y could typically be oxygen, nitrogen or a halogen atom over there. That means, this is part of the second molecule or same molecule, another atom over there. Now, what happens as a consequence of hydrogen bonding? You can see from here that is this XH was a strong bond, full bond was there, but because of hydrogen bonding we find that this has become weakened over there. So, since this bond has become weaker, longer, weaker, as a consequence what will happen is, since the bond has become weaker, the vibration frequency will decrease. And what is observed is typically the force constant and hence the vibration frequency of donor as well as the acceptor group, both of them decrease. Let us look at this example here. This is a typical example of dimerization of an acid here. So, what you find is this is the donor here OH and this is an acceptor O here. Now, what you find is this carbonyl group frequency will decrease and so would the frequency of this OH here. OH will decrease, CO will also decrease. So, that is the consequence of hydrogen bonding. Okay. Now, we know that the hydrogen bonding could be intermolecular or intramolecular, as I was referring to earlier also. That is, intermolecular means between two different molecules, and intramolecular is within the same molecule. That means, the donor part and the acceptor part belong to the same molecule there. Now, what we find is that if I look at the intermolecular hydrogen bonding and intramolecular hydrogen bonding and its effect on IR spectrum, we find that typically whenever there is an intermolecular hydrogen bonding, we find that this gives rise to broad bands. We will talk about this in the next session when we look at the spectra of molecules containing a hydroxyl group over there, say alcohols and things like that. On the other hand, if there is an intramolecular hydrogen bonding, we find that the IR bands or the signals happen to be more defined and sharp. Second difference between the two kinds of hydrogen bonding is that IR spectra are concentration dependent. That is, if there is a intermolecular hydrogen bonding, we find that if I change on decreasing the concentration of the system, we find that we get spectra to be dependent on the concentration. We will show you some spectra over here. And whereas in case of intramolecular hydrogen bonding, this does not depend on the concentration. And the third point of differentiation is, that is, the difference in absorption frequencies of free and associated molecules is very large. That is, if I have got an OH group there, so there is a vibration frequency. If that OH group gets into hydrogen bonding, what happens is that there is a drastic change in the vibration frequency there. That happens in case of intramolecular systems. But if it is intramolecular, the difference is there, but not as significant as in case of intermolecular hydrogen bonding. Let us look at some example here. Now, as we just said that in case of intermolecular hydrogen bonding, we find that IR spectra depends on concentration. Look at this spectra here. This is, I am just checking a schematic spectra here. Now, the first spectrum here, which is taken at high concentration, that means there is extensive hydrogen bonding. So, what you find is the spectra is fairly broad here. But if I dilute the solution, when I dilute the solution, we find that the spectra becomes something like this. That means, what you find is that this part of the spectrum represents the broad part here, represent the hydrogen bonding component, and we find that because of decreasing concentration at moderate concentrations, there will be some molecules which will be having free hydroxyl group over there, that means which is without hydrogen bonding there. And if I decrease the concentration further, we find that this component decreases and this becomes much larger. That means at very low concentrations there will be lot of free OH groups there, and some portion of the molecules will be kind of hydrogen bonded. It will give you the broad spectrum here. So, the point here is that whenever there is intermolecular hydrogen bonding, we will get broad spectra. That is the bottom line or the rule of the thumb in this case here. So, having talked about different factors which affect IR spectrum, let us now move on to two important aspects of IR spectrum. One is called as characteristic group frequencies and one is the fingerprint region there. Now, we will begin by what is called as characteristic group frequencies there. Now, to understand this, let us recall that a typical IR spectrum can be divided into two groups there. This region here from about 1500 centimeter inverse onwards up to about 3500 centimeter inverse is called as group frequency region, and this region here from about 600 centimeter inverse to 1500 centimeter inverse is called as a fingerprint region. Typically, all IR spectra have got these two characteristic regions there. And why are they important is because the signals which are observed in these two regions have got typical origins over there. So, we will learn about, because this part of the molecule is very important to kind of identify the functional group of a molecule, and this also has got its all importance over there. We will talk about both these things over there. Now, let us begin by talking about what is called as the characteristic group frequencies. So, they are also called as group frequencies or functional group frequencies. So, they are equivalent terms used extensively. Now, basically what happens is these characteristic group frequencies are assigned to a part of the molecule. That means one like functional group frequencies. Say you have a big molecule and there is one small functionality there, say an OH group there or a carbonyl group. So, what is the vibration frequency of that group? So, that is called as, that is characteristic of that particular part of the molecule. And incidentally, what is observed is that the vibration frequency of these functionalities of the molecule or these functional groups happen to be independent of the structure of the whole molecule as a whole. And what happens is in terms of its kind of execution of motion here, we find that these typical vibration frequencies or the group frequencies, they involve displacement of a part of the molecule, and this vibration frequency is independent of rest of the molecule over there. Now, let us look at an example here. The CH stretching frequency of terminal alkyne group is observed typically around 3300 centimeter inverse. Look at this spectrum here, say of 1-octane. In case of 1-octane, the terminal CH, that is the acetylenic CH here or alkynic CH, is observed at 3300 centimeter inverse. This is typical. In any molecule where this kind of functionality is there, will come at frequency very close to 3300 centimeter inverse. Why so? Let us try to see how do we rationalize this number. Now, to look at this, what we say is that this molecule of octane can be represented as C8H13 H here, that is the molecular formula we know is C8H14. So, we are representing it as this CH13 is the bulk of the molecule, and this hydrogen atom is attached to the carbon here within this bulk here. So, this is the bond in question over here. Now, if I want to work out the vibration frequency of this bond here, we know the formula for it, that omega oscillation is equal to 1 by 2 pi k by mu. Now, the whole game lies in this mu here. If you look at this mu, we know that mu is equal to, for this molecule it will be equal to mass of hydrogen atom, mass of C8H13 divided by mass of hydrogen plus mass of C8H13 here. Now, we make an assumption here. We assume that this molecule is too big here, much larger as compared to hydrogen atom here. That is, in other words, we can say this mass of this bulk is approximately equal to the mass of hydrogen atom plus mass of this bulk over there. That means, in other words, we can say that the mass of hydrogen atom is insignificant as compared to the mass of the bulk over here. When we assume that and substitute over here, so what you find is that this term remains as such, and in the denominator this mH can be ignored. When we ignore mH here, we find that this term will get cancelled by this, and our mu will come out to be equal to mH here. That is, if we substitute over here, we find that mu oscillation to be equal to 1 by 2 pi square root of k by mh. So, irrespective of what is this here, if it is CHH13 or maybe some other big molecule is there, irrespective of what is this bulk here, we find that the vibration frequency will depend on the force constant, which happens to be same because I am talking about the same bond CH here, and this is MH, again a constant over there. So, the vibration frequency will not change. So, that is how we rationalize the concept of what is called as the group frequency. Same is true of any other functionalities there, an OH there or a carbonyl group or some other functionality we can talk about. Now, the second group of frequencies what we observe in IR spectrum is what is called as a skeletal vibrations, or what is observed in the fingerprint region, say around 600 centimeter inverse to about 1500 centimeter inverse. They are called as skeletal vibrations. Now, what is the origin of these vibrations here? The skeletal vibrations arise from the coupling of vibrations over a large part or over the whole of the molecule here. This is totally in contrast with our group frequencies there. In case of group frequency, what we had was a small part of the molecule was vibrating, rest was not contributing anything to this. In case of skeletal vibration, what we have is just the opposite. It is molecule as a whole, because different vibrations are there, so they all couple with each other and they give rise to certain vibration frequencies which are observed in the region what is called as a fingerprint region. Now, this involves some displacement of roughly all or nearly all atoms in the molecule there, again in contrast to group frequencies, where only small portion, maybe 1 or 2 atoms were involved in the vibration there. And they, as I just mentioned, they are observed in the range of about 1500 to about 600 or 650 centimeter inverse, called as a fingerprint region. Why are we talking about fingerprint region? Because this is characteristic of a given molecule. That means the vibration frequencies in these regions are as significant as the fingerprint of a human being there. What it means is the following. We will see an application of this, but what you see here is, since this fingerprint region or the skeletal vibrations, they involve a big bulk of the molecule over there. So, you find that there are large number of vibrations which fall in this region, and since there are so very large vibrations, and also these vibrations are quite kind of affected in terms of the steric or electronic effects on the molecule. Suppose some small changes there, the vibration frequency will change in this region, because they are very sensitive to any change in the electronic structure of the molecule there. And typically, when we try to use IR spectroscopy, there is hardly any need to assign most of this, because it's almost impossible to assign each of these vibration frequencies what you observe in the vibration this fingerprint region. On the other hand, the group frequency region about 1500 centimeter inverse to 3500 centimeter inverse is what is of importance to us in terms of interpretation of IR spectra, because that is where different functional groups will show their signature there. Okay. Now, let us look at what is the importance of this fingerprint region. Now, that is one of the most crucial importance here. What you see is that if I want to establish the identity of a compound, suppose I have a certain molecule A, I have an authentic sample of that. Suppose I have a sample of aspirin, simple example here. Now, suppose I make a preparation of aspirin in the laboratory and I want to see whether I have been able to get aspirin or not. What do I do? What do I do is I run the IR spectrum of this authentic sample of aspirin, make a spectrum there. On the same chart, I take the sample which I have prepared and run the spectrum on that. If it happens to be aspirin, then what you will find is that in this fingerprint region, the two spectra will overlap extensively. And if the fingerprint region of the two molecules, the two spectra are identical to each other, we say the molecules are identical. So, that is the importance of this region, fingerprint region. We may have variations in the other part of it, but this portion will remain the same. Now, what the importance can be seen highlighted again. Now, so you may have, so in this case I am showing you the spectra of two molecules there, propanol 1 and propanol 2. What you find is that this blue spectrum and the black spectrum here, what you find that though these molecules are very close to each other, the only difference between the two is, that is, in this case hydroxyl group is at position number 2, here it is a terminal OH group there. So, what you find is the fingerprint region is significantly different here. On the other hand, this region happens to be roughly identical here, because that is characteristic of the group frequencies. So, this is alcohol part and this is the part because of the aliphatic part of the molecule, the CH stretching and all. So, they will remain the same, whether it is 1-propanol or 2-propanol, they will be similar, we can see it here. But in case of fingerprint region, we find that the two molecules are quite different from each other. So, this can be used even to separate or kind of identify whether the two are identical or not. Okay. Now, let us sum up what we have done today. What we have done today is we reviewed the contents of the previous sessions, and thereafter we discussed different factors which affect IR spectra. We talked about a large number of factors over there. Having done that, we moved on to explaining the concept of characteristic group frequencies, and we rationalized in terms of an example over there. Thereafter, we discussed the fingerprint region and discuss its significance. We describe what is the meaning of fingerprint region and what is the importance of that. That is, importance lies in kind of identifying or characterizing a given molecule over there. Okay. Now, in the next session, we will now come on to trying to see that how do we correlate the structure of a molecule and its IR spectra. So, we will try to take up structure spectral correlations in the next session there. Thank you.